Hi everybody, it's time for another edition of the Spartan Sports Report here on TV3, and Sam and I are happy to have the athletic director at CHS with us. As usual, Brent, welcome.
Glad to be back. It's hard to think it's already September and we're moving right along, trending in the correct direction this week. So
Spartans finally got a ball game under their belt.
Yeah, everybody's been able to thankfully play everything except for, unfortunately, football had 2 bad weeks, but we're able to get the troops out on the field Friday night. And overall, I think a pretty good showing from the top to the bottom. So
Final score doesn't always tell what the story is of a ball game, I found.
No, if you had a chance to see it, I think we pretty much, in my estimation, controlled the game from beginning to end. We just had a couple of unfortunate turnovers with one of our specialty teams, and that gave them 14 quick points. Then probably have to travel 11 yards to get them together. But outside of trying to move the ball up and down the field, other than their opening drive of the second half, which they came out and marched right down the field and scored. Of course, we turned around and marched right back and scored again. But I think we controlled the game, and both offensively and defensively, other than about those two messed up punts that we had. And unfortunately, one was bobbled and one was blocked. And I'm sure Coach Jackson kind of told me today he took the blame for that. Maybe we didn't spend enough time working on those, but trying to get all new offenses in, and we've been short a week, so trying to do best we can. But I think if you listen to him do his interview, he said he would control the clock and focus on defense, and I think for the most part we did those things well.
Greensburg had already had 2 games under their belt, and that was Spartan's first game, and I thought we came out and really matched up with them very well that way, especially with the experience that they'd already had.
Yeah, I think that with a young squad, especially from an offensive standpoint, and really truly on a defensive standpoint too, but I think at one point in time we have 8 sophomores on the field on the offensive side. The entire backfield were all sophomores, from your wideouts to your slot backs to your running back to your quarterback. And I thought they did a good job, and the linemen did a good job of holding the line out, at least last week. And I don't remember Gavin Pearson being pressured too many times back there. We didn't throw it a lot, but when we did, he had time to throw it. And, completed some good passes down the field. We had a 55-yard scoring pass to Lynch and a 18-yard throwing strike to Myers. And, and of course, Braxton picked one off and ran it back for 60. And had our opportunities right at the end. We're down on the inside the 15 trying to score to tie it up with less than 2 minutes to go. And just unfortunately had an incomplete pass. And the last one he couldn't really get set. Probably one of the only 2 times he got pressured all game and couldn't get his body turned enough to get a good toss to it and got picked off in the end zone. So outside those 2 possessions, wasn't a bad ball game.
Had a lead at halftime.
Got it tied up at 14, I believe. So they kind of took the lead, and we took that score right down the field and tied it up. So
I thought we did a good job on their quarterback. He's pretty good. Brogan, I think's his name.
Yeah, he's a good athlete. I think he runs it. For the most part, we didn't give up the edge very much. I think maybe 2 or 3 times we got around the edge, and that's kind of been some issues the last couple of years where we let them get outside of us too quick, and we have a hard time containing their speed. Although I think our kids did a good job of understanding their role and staying in their positions. So we'll see what happens when we suit up against the Knights Saturday afternoon at 3 o'clock. So
Sam pointed out it was the 3rd game for Greensburg and our first, so that had to make a difference.
Oh, I think it makes a difference, especially when you're young and it's a new system and you haven't got a chance to put your troops out on the field yet for a couple weeks. So they've had a couple weeks to tweak things, and we're just finding things out that we did in the game that needs to be fixed. And I'm sure this week they'll get those straightened out, and we'll come out on Saturday afternoon and try to take the Knights down. So.
Sure. We have some video from the game, so let's take a look at it right now. Brent, you can talk about this ball game and point out some things here for us.
It's kind of odd with the limited number of fans. We're going to have that at our place on Saturday, too. Our kids are going to get their families in, and that's going to be about the extent of it.
Right.
Probably in the first quarter, Myers picked that one off. And thank goodness he got a good bounce in the end zone. But
Braxton has quite a bit of experience.
Yeah, he played all last year.
Right.
As a freshman and scored some on the offense. And that, unfortunately, is just a result of us getting a fumble on our punt. And they didn't have long to go to get in the end zone there. And this is right at the end of the second quarter. I actually thought he got knocked out of bounds, and Gavin did a great job of keeping his balance and staying upright and taking that 55 yards to the pay dirt. So
that's pretty good, pretty acrobatic to stay in bounds on that.
And there's Pearson to Myers in the end zone to tie it back up at 21. And Other than the blocked punt and the fumbled punt, I thought our defense did a pretty good job. Other than the first drive after the third quarter coming out at halftime, we didn't take a very good stand. But
A lot of sophomores on the team, right?
quite a few. I think a lot of them are starting, sophomores. Probably have 4 or 5 seniors that play a lot, so we're still pretty young. Unfortunately, we come up 28-21, but we're knocking on the door with 2 minutes to go and got a chance to punch it in and just can't get it across the goal line.
There's a meeting after the game. What do coaches typically say to a team
Well, I
after?
haven't heard Justin talk after the game yet, so it just depends on the coach. So
Okay.
I think they're just kind of talking about what I would assume he's talking about how proud he was of them.
I would think
I
so.
think our
Encourage the
fans
kids,
were
yeah.
excited. Even though we lost, they were excited about how the game was played and had a lot of positive comments coming out. So it's a new system, new year, new thoughts. So
Sure.
we'll see where things develop as the weeks go along.
First year as
So.
the head coach for Coach Jackson.
Yeah, and when you interviewed him, you could tell in his interview that he'd taken the steps in the right direction to try to get him to be a position of being
Yes.
a head coach. He's been in it for over a decade and not trying to rush himself to get to be a head coach at an early age. And not that 30's old, but he's right in that mark. So, somebody's going to take a shot at him. You might find one that's the right fit. So,
Big responsibility for a young guy to be a head coach.
but I think it's even been more difficult under the circumstances that we're in.
Yes.
And then not being able to have a good summer with your kids, and Coach Harder went through that last year, getting hired late, and she's going through it again this year. And, it's hard to get your program to go if you can't have your summertime to get your kids in and kind of implement what you want to do through the summertime. And you get to know them, they get them to see them in the weight room and workouts, and they kind of get to know who you are and what you're about. And I think that's a lot of lost time for a lot of our coaches this past summer.
Spartans lose 28-27. Sam, as you said, you were impressed with what you
I was
saw.
impressed with him. I was impressed with the defense. I know the coach was emphasizing defense, and I think in a lot of sports, defense wins you ball games.
Oh, I agree.
And,
I agree.
I liked it that we didn't have a whole lot of kids playing both directions. I felt like that sometimes if you put what you consider your best athletes out there for the whole game, by the end of the game they're wore out. So
Certainly.
So develop some athletes and try to play offense and defense with a select group of guys on each side.
How many youngsters do we have on the varsity team?
59, I believe, was the last count I had. So
That's a good number.
yeah, and the goal is to keep them all out and get them returned and maybe grab some that
Sure.
filter out this year that may want to come back next year. But I agree with Sam. I think the first half, other than probably Lynch and Myers kind of sneaking over a couple times on offense, I'm not sure anybody went both ways the entire first half except for maybe those two. And then the second half, Schaefer got to run the ball a little bit more, and Myers and Lynch got in on offense a little bit more. But for the most part, they pretty much two-platooned it for most of the game. So hopefully that will pay off in the long run with getting kids experience.
Successful teams have different units for offense and defense.
Well, it definitely makes it easier to have to only play half the game. And, if you look at the stats, and Coach and I were talking today, we ran 70-some plays and they only ran 44. So we almost had a 2-to-1 ratio on plays. They just got the 2 big plays that we didn't. We got 1 big play and they got 2 and they beat us by 1. So those things happen. Hopefully we can correct those come Saturday night, Saturday afternoon.
Impressive first game.
Another thing that I saw that I liked, that when the offense was on the field, the defense was sitting on the bench, and there were 2 coaches over there talking to them and working with them at that time. And they weren't just all lined up watching the game.
Yeah, I think, Kyle Fisher's an ex-Spartan, and he's had a lot of experience. He helped Earlham, and he's kind of in charge of defense, and I think he's learned some things from, Earlham's had a football program. I'm not saying it's at the top of the line, but, you still kind of do the same things that the bigger programs do. So I think there's some carryover to that with him and Coach Emerson doing the defense, and Coach Lynch is still helping with the offense, and Coach Morris, and I think Coach Jackson's got his hands in on both of them a little bit. But Coach Keene's there doing the linemen, and so we've had 3 people hold over, and we got 4 new ones, and we'll make it work. So I think the kids have been excited. I think practices have been upbeat and positive, and I think that's what they're looking for. Something quick, to the point, get in, get out, and get on their way. So
They had to be excited too, the kids, about finally getting to play.
well, I think they are. I think, unfortunately for them, they're the only team that hasn't been able to get out, and It was funny because I was headed down to Greensburg, and it was like 6:15, and their AD calls me and says, "Is everything all right? Your team's not here yet." Well, different coach, different philosophy, wants to get there at a different time. So, some want to get there an hour and a half early, and some just want to get there time to get them dressed, get them on the field, and let's go play. So
And that's kind of what it was there.
yeah, we'll see how things develop. So everybody's got their own way they do things, and sometimes that's not a bad thing to have them less time to think about what's going on and just get there and know you got a job to do and get done.
Seems like all the parts are there, so let's go.
Well, I think if we can keep all the kids together and keep us from getting injuries, that's always a big thing.
Oh,
You get
yes.
the right 1 or 2 kids hurt, that really makes a big toll on your team. And get our freshman kids to grow a little bit and try to keep them down at the JV level. They did play on Saturday. They come up on the short end of the stick, but they got a chance to get out there and play. And unfortunately, we didn't get to play Greensburg, but we picked up Muncie Central, and the speed was just a little bit differently. And the size of the kids. So they had a 6 foot, 350-pound kid, and we don't have anybody that adds up to 3 people to get to 350 for some of them. But it was neat. Unfortunately we lost, but they had a special needs kid on the Muncie Central team that everybody got together. And even though we were way down, we let him score at the end. And you thought he would just won the World Series or won the Super Bowl the way he danced and did things. And I think everybody was okay with that. So
That's good.
My Czech sports this week at CHS, boys tennis are playing at Centerville. This is Tuesday games. Girls soccer is home with Rushville.
that's senior night tonight, so it starts at 5. So.
Senior night already. I mean,
We're trying to get him in. You don't know day by day, minute by minute. We could have the rug
can
pulled
be
on
there?
us tomorrow. So
okay.
we've already had senior night in volleyball, and we're going to do girls golf senior night tonight. We're playing out at the country club with Hagerstown and Greenfield, so we'll get Bailey, and then we'll get the 5 seniors at volleyball tonight. 5 seniors at soccer. And boys soccer we did last week, and we'll get tennis and football down here. We'll have to do football at the last. We'll try to get that under the lights against East Central. So.
Well, it's great to recognize those kids. I know they look forward to it.
Yeah, I think they do. We're trying to let the coaches take more ownership and the teams take more ownership of what they want to do on senior night. Just tell us what night they want to have, and we'll make sure we get the script and read about the kids. And today's age, it's hard to bring in cake and food and cookies and all that like they could do in the past, just because of the situations we're in. So,
Will we have homecoming?
that is currently undecided, but it could be in the wintertime,
Okay.
because we're not sure we can actually have kids do the homecoming Olympics with crowds and all the things they want to do, and how do you have a homecoming dance and
And how do you have
fans come and see
alumni
it,
come home
people
if
come
they
and
can't
watch.
get in?
Correct. So right now that's temporarily on hold, and we're trying to work something out maybe in the wintertime.
Like at a basketball game? Is that what you're?
Yeah,
Maybe.
it's a hard time. There's no open dates on Saturday and Fridays and Saturdays from November till March, so it's hard to find a night to put a dance on. So. Maybe it has to be after a game one time for a while, so, like it used to be. So, but we're working on it.
This season in basketball, Saturday games are mostly at home.
Yeah, I don't know how we got into that mode, but between the boys and the girls, it seems like they got a
Well, they
little
were
stretches.
away last year. I know how you got into it.
Well, and we've added a couple teams, and Jennings County actually is new in place of North Central.
Yes.
As they dropped us, and
Yes.
I magically worked out a deal that they're going to come to the Bowl for 4 straight years, so that means we don't ever have to travel. So they actually host the wrestling sectional that day, so they don't think
Jennings
they can get
County?
it done. So they're coming here all 4 years, and then
Good competition? And
Noblesville is replacing Muncie Central. Muncie Central had a conflict and wanted to. Actually, the ball company had a deal for Muncie Central and Muncie Burst to play at Ball State, and they would like for us to play in it, which we would have, but they wanted it the Saturday before sectional, and that's just not a good time to be playing a varsity basketball game. And then where they would avoid it in our schedule would have been about a 12-game gap.
Mm-hmm.
If we would have had a double weekend, we would have thought about it, but that's a single weekend night, and 12 days in the middle of January is too many days to take off. So unfortunately, we couldn't renew the contract with Muncie Central, so we picked up Noblesville. So they're going to come here this year. So I think for the next 4 years in boys basketball, we got, or at least 2 years, we got 11 home games and 9 road, or 12 and 8. I don't remember what it is, but works out well for us.
doesn't make me mad.
So.
Thanks for sharing the trials and tribulations of an athletic director with
Oh,
us.
that's just everyday life for all of us. That's not unique to me, I'm sure. Just the way things work, sometimes you can't work things out. We've been trying to find a pickup soccer game for where we lost Newcastle with the girls, and Newcastle doesn't have any dates that we fit. And I probably thrown it out to 10 schools around the area that we don't already play, and nobody's hit on it yet. And it's just one of those years that things are going to go crazy.
And there's postponements due to something. Why?
Yeah, you just don't know. It just takes that one kid to come in, and then the 7 kids or 8 kids sitting around them in 7 different classes could be all athletes, and by next week we could be contact traced out again. I'm knocking on wood it doesn't happen, and I hope our opponents don't happen.
Hope you're not a good predictor.
So I hope I'm poor, like the weatherman.
On Thursday, the boys soccer will be at Centerville. The boys tennis will be at Oldenburg, and volleyball will be at Greensburg on Thursday. And Saturday is full.
Yeah, we have 3 home events. We got girls soccer with South Dearborn, which will be a varsity game at 11, followed by half of JV, and we have Seymour and Indianapolis Pike and Rising Sun coming, starting at 9 in the morning in the field house for volleyball.
Yeah.
Of course, that's limited, so you only have 200 people in the field house right now.
Right.
And then at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock on Saturday, the guys are going to suit it up against South Dearborn out to Spartan Field. Forget all those that are on the road. Cross country's on the road, and boys soccer's on the road. And tennis, I think, is down at Lawrenceburg.
Pick up any pointers at Greensburg for Spartan home games, football?
Well, I don't know. We got lots of ideas. I know they had their band in the end zone, or half of the band in the end zone. So, different set of bleachers. So,
okay.
Do we have portable bleachers that we can roll out there?
We may look at that as we move along. So, still only limit to what's supposed to be half of that bleacher capacity. So, if you had 100 people, then you could put 50 down there. So,
okay.
But might be an opportunity down the road to get more kids into the game. That's my thought, is just our high school body, student kids have a hard time getting in because of the limited number of people that we can allow right now.
Right,
so.
And I would hope that people would agree that they should be the priority.
Well, I hope that besides the immediate family members, as most as we can get in, some we're not going to be able to get them all in because some have large families and they don't have that many tickets. And between that and the cheerleaders and the dancers and the band people who come in, and the band's going to play the national anthem, and Levi's agreed to take them back to the school, although I think I can count them as essential people, so I don't know that I'd have to count them if I let them sit in the stands. But and try to get some of their parents in that want to come to see them, and we're trying to work some things out with them. But once you start thinking of all those people, it takes up about every ticket there is to get in right now.
Speaking of the band in the fall, it's usually when they go and compete. Is that going on now? Or?
There is no band competition.
No band competition. Year, so. That's too bad for those kids.
Correct. And Levi does a great job with their kids, and the numbers continue to grow. And Grace has got the flag corps going back out again, and they were out in the courtyard practicing the other day, and I asked them where my flag was, and she said, "Here." I said, "I'm afraid if I spin it once, you'd have 5 girls with concussions, and you wouldn't be able to play the rest of the time." So I decided not to pick the flag up and just keep on walking. So
Saturday's an important ball game. South Dearborn is a 4A school, right?
Yeah, and for us, unfortunately, Franklin County's in that part, and we didn't get a chance to play them. So, if we get a chance to play South Dearborn and get up, at least get the first win and break our little streak that's on the wrong side of the ledger, and be the 4A school. And I think I looked at their 0-3 maybe. If I looked at their record, I looked today, but I can't remember what they were.
They're 2-1, South Dearborn.
Yeah, I can't remember. I looked at 0-3 for somebody. So I looked at a bunch of them. So.
Rushville is 0-2.
I looked at both South Dearborn and Rushville, so that could have been what I was looking at today. So, but it'd be great for our kids,
And then the other 4A team is
East Central. That's week 7. So Franklin County is usually solid. Not that the other ones aren't, but we sure finish with the 3 toughest ones on our schedule. With week 7 being East Central, and week 8 being Lawrenceburg, and week 9 being Batesville. And Lawrenceburg and Batesville are both on the road, so. Which is good for next year when we're a little older. We'll both be in our backyard. So, and then the time we have to travel back down there, we'll have mostly seniors again. So that makes a difference when you're traveling on the roads, if we can keep all the kids out.
So 2 straight Saturday afternoon games for the Spartans, and game times are?
This week's at 3, and then the Rushville game will start at 4.
Okay.
So that was due to officials' conflict that couldn't get here by 3. So we had to bump it back an hour.
And hopefully when East Central comes to town, the lights will be...
According to the light company, we're scheduled to get them up on the 22nd and the 23rd of September.
Good.
So you know how construction goes though. So we'll just hold at that, and hopefully it shows up. So
Hope the weather cooperates, and
they said it'd take about 2 days to
to
get it up. So time they run the wires and get everything up and check it out, and so let's hope it comes to fruition on those 2 days, and then we'll be ready to go by the time the East Central
Which
game
bank
rolls
was
around.
brought down? What?
It's the southwest corner, the one closest to the baseball field on the visitor
Okay.
side. It lacked about 6 inches of knocking third base dugout down as well, so kind of got lucky there.
Right.
We did have one of the lights end up at center field that got knocked off the pole and blew all the way out to center field, so
Yeah.
it was a little strong wind that
I
day.
lived through that. Yeah.
Lost both of our batting cages, ripped the hatches off the press box at the football thing, and some of the fascia off the soft baseball press box. So
Yeah, that was quite a storm. That.
threw a piece of metal through the soccer net, tore it right in half. So thankfully nobody was hurt. So
Yes,
at least
that's
that
the
I'm
main
aware
thing.
of. So
Yeah, there was roof damage to some homes, and
I know our tennis team had practiced that day, and Coach Bloom had put them in the gym to get them out of the weather, and said the rain was swirling on the tennis court. So assuming it was some type of a small tornado that went ripping through there. So
yeah,
My grandfather would have called that a zephyr.
a zephyr.
Yes.
well, it looks like a good season for the kids. I mean, I was impressed with their play and their energy, and
Well, let's hope it continues, and really, boys cross country's had a good start. And unfortunately for our girls, we don't have enough to score a team yet, so we're always looking for girls to come out. We have 4, which is up from last year, so we had a couple of freshmen that decided they couldn't do 2 things and didn't run this year, so I think would have helped us a lot. And boys soccer's off to a good start. They've been
Yes.
beaten by East Central, and girls soccer's off to a good start. They've been beaten by East Central and beat everybody else, and they got Rushville tonight, so they can go 1-1 in the conference if they win tonight. And I think the boys are 3-1 now, if I remember correctly. And tennis has had a good start, so everything's knock on wood. Girls golf scores keep coming down; those are all positive, and hopefully sneak a win tonight against Hagerstown and Greenfield.
boys soccer team has quite a few seniors.
But 12 of them to be exact.
Quite a
So
few.
It'll be a different year next year because those 12 been around for a while. At least 11 of them have been around
Yes.
for a long period of time. But I think our younger kids, there's some, freshmen and sophomores that fit in well and have played for a long period of time and done some travel soccer. So, I hope Coach Balmy sticks it out, but you
Right.
never know. He always tells me he's going to stick it out through this class, and then there's another class, and he says I'm going to stick it out through this class. So
Well,
we'll see.
Yeah, we
Coach
need
Reynolds
money.
has been there for a long time, and his boy's a freshman, and Jeff Martin's boy's a freshman, and I know I'm going to say some names I forget. Daryl Shaw Nolan, who's been involved with soccer and raising fundraising for a lot of soccer programs around the state, and
Schlichte, freshman.
so we have quite a few that's on the JV teams. And unfortunately, right now nobody seems to have a JV boys team, so we're scrambling to trying to find games. We're going to play. Greenfield has a couple, so we're going to play them a couple times, and trying to make up the ones we lost with East Central because of the rain and the storm a few nights ago and couldn't get
Yes.
them in the second half. So I haven't heard back from them. I've emailed them a couple times to try to get a date, and we're willing to play them on a Saturday and play the JV against their JV and then give them a break and play our younger kids against the freshmen, which they'll have both. So we'll see. We're trying to find games. It's hard when you got 16 games and you only got a limited amount of time you can get them in, and not everybody has a JV team, unfortunately. So
It's a tricky thing this time of the year because of the storms that may develop. And tell us about the official rules.
well, official rules, if you see lightning or hear thunder, it's 30 minutes from the last time you see it. Everybody thinks it's just lightning, but it's also thunder. So just depends on where you're at, if they turn their heads or not. So, but I don't think we really want to turn our head. It just takes that one time you turn your head and the lightning bolt hits in the wrong spot. Then you're on
Yes.
the news and not doing the right thing. And I think the biggest thing for me is that I think our fans always don't think those rules apply to them. When we clear the field with the players, that means you need to get out of the bleachers. You need to find
Sure.
shelter just as well, whether that's
Sure.
back to your car or wherever that happens to be. And we don't want not only our kids to be safe, we want all of our patrons to be safe. So, but yeah, it's 30 minutes from lightning and or thunder. So unfortunately, at this time of year, if it comes at the wrong time, it gets dark too quick, and then it hurts us with our JV
Yes.
kids in soccer because we run out of daylight here, and nobody's fault. It's just one of those things that happens, and the way they pop up so quickly sometimes, right?
Let me
now,
ask
so.
you about football. There's been instances in the past where we played the next day after after a delay, and there's been instances when we've stayed all night. I think you and Brett
Been in a few places before.
a few places like that, I recall. But so with Saturday games, if we would have storms and they would have to be postponed, you can't really postpone
So
it.
it's hard to
It's
make
just
it up.
done.
You can't really, you're really only supposed to play one game every 5 days, and it's kind of hard to say let's play on Monday. Then you're really not supposed to play on Monday, because then you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you're back playing again on Friday. So let's just hope if it's early enough and it doesn't get too dark, we can delay it a little bit if we have to. The 3 o'clock starts better, but I also understand why the officials sometimes need 4, because we already had them hired for a Friday night. Now we're begging them to come on a Saturday, which, knock on wood, all 3 crews that we had were able to do that. So some of that's the lack of college games on Saturday that gives them a little more freedom as well.
Will the other 3 lights come on? Other 3 light poles?
Right now they're shut off.
Shut off. Okay.
Yeah,
So there's no chance of if it got early evening or
The
something.
breakers are locked down because of that other one's not set to turn on. I'm afraid what might happen if it's not wired in
That's,
correctly.
yes.
Don't want to find out.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the
That's
guy.
high-
I
that's
don't want to be the
high
guy
voltage.
that pushing the breaker leverage up to see if it's going to work correctly.
Remind us again of what we're hosting as far as tourneys are concerned.
Pretty soon we'll be doing the boys tennis sectional, and
Okay.
then we have the cross country for both boys and girls. So those are right. Cross country is right in October, and tennis is right towards the end of September, right in those areas. So it won't be long. Girls golf sectional is about a week and a half. So
I'm going to say it's right around the corner.
their entries are already
That
in, and it's just around the corner. We had 2 girls make all conference. Bailey Schneider and Lydia Powell made all conference in golf. Unfortunately, we had 2 girls got contact traced out, and we couldn't put a full team in the conference golf tournament. But 2 of our 3 that played made all conference, so we'll take that.
That's good. Congratulations to them.
Season moving right along.
We're trending in the correct direction for this week for all sports currently. I don't want to jinx us, so I did that 2 weeks ago. I learned my lesson. So, no, I think the coaches are doing the best they can under the situations that they're in, and the limited amount of time they had with them all summer in the off season. It's just a different time, a different thing, and we definitely try to follow the rules the way they're supposed to be, so that we're not violating anything. And sometimes people get upset about that, but I'd rather do it the right way than have people look at us like we're trying to always cheat and find an edge. So
Overall, the Spartans, they have a good sports program. I mean, we win more than we lose.
Well, I think so. I think our kids and our coaches work at it, and I think they understand they play for the word Spartan on their chest and
Yes, it
not the
means
name on the
something.
back of their shirt. And I think there's a long-standing tradition of successful programs, and we're going to run through cycles. It happens.
Sure.
And
Yes,
every
yes.
school goes through cycles, and unless you got 4,000 or 5,000 kids to pick from, your cycles are sometimes shorter. But when you're down to 1,000 kids, and sometimes you run into the short cycle in certain sports, but not all sports. So.
I know you're thinking about Carmel probably, but they're not doing so well in football.
Well, they play a pretty good schedule.
Well, I know, but still.
You got about
they're not
6,000
winning
kids.
right now.
You got about 6,000 kids to pick from, sure. And 3,000 of them are boys. That's 3 times as many kids we have in our high school, and 6 times as many boys as we have for the most part. So, sure, it makes a difference when you're looking for those kids to fill spots and play sports.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
a lot easier to be a solo sport player in a bigger school than it is in our school. We need all our athletes playing multiple sports to be successful. So.
Well, we wish all the Spartans good luck this week and hope we get a lot of Spartan wins. And Sam, I know you're looking anxiously toward the next game.
It was nice to put the headphones back on this week, and looking forward to it again on Saturday.
Right. Brent, as always, thanks for joining us here
Happy
on
to
the
be here.
show.
We'll
And
try to get a coach in here next Monday for you.
we will talk about a South Dearborn victory here in a
That's
few
the
days.
goal.
Okay.
All teams win the rest of this week.
Thanks, everybody, for watching this edition of the Spartan Sports Report here on TV3. Have a nice evening.